plus understanding.
Seems like what I ordered. Very nice. Yeah. No drinks.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call our city council work session to order. 5:02. Good, we got actually 3 items of work sessions today. Third item. Our first item is selecting the bridge color. Great.
So we did a survey, you guys asked us, white on top, there was 893 people that voted. Once the duplicates come out of the batch, 62% voted for white, 37.7. So I guess I'm here today for a little bit of direction, if that's how you want to go, or if you want to go a different direction, so we can actually include it in the 100% design as we move forward. Since we are at 100%, it's being reviewed till 23rd of June, and we're still on track to do it in August. So there's this going on with it, and we're working with the security consultant also, and come in later, but we can actually have that, so cameras and stuff. So the main thing tonight is the red one.
I forgot to vote on mine. It was only too late.
We got it covered.
Still
No,
a process there.
veto.
Sat in the right place.
Was-
People have spoken.
Yeah,
It was a big difference, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even.
And I think,
white.
yeah, I think that if we think that the lighting of the bridge is one of the selling points and being able to change it and all the other stuff, then it's gotta be white. My feeling.
I want blue, just joking.
You can make it blue with lights.
Well, I was really hoping for blue colors, but the public spoke.
Yeah,
So
I would just.
what the, site is going white.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Awesome. That was as short as.
I like that.
47.
Right, the next one may take a while.
Thank you, Greg. Awesome. So our next item on our work session is our updated policy discussion around climate friendly and equitable communities. And just as a reminder for people that are listening, CEP, as we call it, is actually an executive order by the governor. Asks all state agencies to look at regulations and drive towards lowering CO2, greenhouse gases, et cetera, et cetera. And last year, the CEP issued a bunch of new rules associated with this. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
Yes,
Did I get that right?
yes, that is absolutely correct. So,
Joe, take it away.
all right, so we have only 12 slides tonight. So in regards to this, and I need some council direction as we move forward through these slides. So, oops, all right, let's make sure it's working. All right, the CPEC rules, again, as the mayor indicated, were developed after former governor Peter Brown issued an executive order in March of 2020 that tightened Oregon's carbon emission goals and directed state agencies to take action to speed up the process of emission reduction. LCDC adopted land use, building, and transportation planning rules for jurisdictions in metropolitan areas in July of last year, 2022. In the city of Sherwood and 12 other jurisdictions, including Hillsborough, Happy Valley, and Oregon City, along with one county, the city of Oregon rules, and the cases running in Oregon Court of Appeals. And at issue is whether the DLCD exercise authority, it did not have so that's where we're at in regards to the litigation and how we got here.
Yeah, and again, this is for the public listening. You know, at least for myself, this is nothing, the lawsuit has nothing to do with whether we think lowering CO2 emissions is a good idea, and we'll agree on that. This is more about their proposed rules and the impacts that they have on our communities. And that's what the lawsuit's about.
Yep. The process that you went
And
through.
the process they went through to make the rules.
Before we get into the specifics, I have a general, I assume at the end of this, you're gonna bring us a subcode, right? To implement.
We're gonna request feedback for code that we will ultimately bring forward, but the short answer to that is we're gonna request an extension on everything that we can, and that's likely not gonna result in code requirements until, if we get the extension, until early 2024, late 2023, early 2024.
I think it's still, my question is still relevant. What I would like to see in whatever code that comes to us is, if the rest of the council agrees with me, is language that says, if at such time the appeal this code automatically reverts back to, original state as soon as the appeal is won with this one. Is that reasonable? And then we could actually have a debate at the planning commission around
Process.
any new code that we might want. By one voice, but that would be mine.
Yeah, no, I think we're staff, we've kind of already talked about that at staff level as well. I think it's a good idea, so, yeah. We can put that in as part of
Does everybody agree with those directions?
Let's move on then. So again, the CEP rules take effect incrementally. There were required implementation this year, like electric vehicle conduits, where the city can implement through codifying, because it's clear and objective. And there were also 2 parking reform phases, phase A and B, and we'll dig into that shortly. Required implementation in the future deals with land use requirements for designated environment-friendly areas. The ones that are significantly impacted are more outside of the Portland metro region. In addition to transportation performance standards, and then your TSP update is also part of the whole package that we'll be looking at in the future. Again, rules provide option for local jurisdictions to request alternative implementation timeline for certain elements, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. Parking reform in 2 phases. Phase 1 is Reform A, reducing mandates that took effect December 31st, 2022. And Phase 2, parking reforms. B, regulation improvements that is taking effect at the end of the month. And we are going to be asking for extension for those regulations. So let's dig into them. In addition to those parking reform, again, electric vehicle charging, they basically require multifamily residential buildings with 5 or more units to provide electrical service capacity for 40% of their parking space. And capacity basically means installing conduits or pipes to serve 40% of their parking spots. So it's ready for wiring and charging stations to support EV as the market expands. So that's very clear and objective standards that we can apply without codifying at this time, which is great. So when we get a multifamily development of 5 units or more, that's a standard that we can just clearly apply.
Okay, and this may be derailing, but I have always pushed for having a 220 in every new house that's built in the garage. Is that something we can add to this? It's literally $20 to do it at time of building. Would that be something that we would, again, I know, and again, just one voice, but I feel like it's $800 to add it after the fact, and you can use it for a power saw, an RV, or an electric car, a washing machine. You can use it for all those things, but if we put one in the garage, it gives us flexibility.
I've always been told is we're very restricted on what we can do when it comes to building code requirements. So that we can do aesthetics and some other peripheral stuff, but like, I don't know if we can. my understanding is.
I would love for somebody to look at that and give me an answer on it, because
Back in the day, we looked at, before we joined TVFNR, county requires houses to be sprinkled. The cost of this,
okay,
and that was a hell no, you can't do that.
okay, well, so I think this is a different thing than that, and so I'd love to get a ruling
Okay,
from, because
Things
A,
have changed.
yeah, A, things have changed, and B, if it's one of those things that's cheaper for us to do and developers to do than put conduit with, frankly, these kinds of things are how charging used to be done, 5 years ago. It's not, with the 220 at somebody's house, that's kind of where people charge now, right? Because you're fully charged by the end of the day, by the
I
overnight.
know the general building code changed to make all houses solar panel pretty friendly, so it.
It was another
Okay.
executive order.
But even that, so just, again, the difference between that and, getting solar panels is a $20,000 problem, right? Literally plugging in the thing that comes with your car into a 220 is almost free.
Let's keep this meeting on track.
Okay.
We can have staff find out about that.
yeah, we'll
That's
definitely
something run
talk
through
to
the
our
planning
building
commission.
official
Yeah.
to see what updates are coming in regards to
Okay.
the residential building
Be
code.
shocked if it's not something.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be
we'll
great.
follow in regards to that,
Yep,
so.
yep.
Okay. Climate friendly as far as reform A, jurisdictions may not require more than one parking space per unit for residential developments. So right now, typical a single family is 1 to 1, but when it comes to a multifamily home, it's based on the number of bedrooms, which would indicate the number of parking spaces. So now, 1 unit, it doesn't matter how many bedrooms there are, it's 1 parking space. That's basically what that means.
And that's a minimum, it's not, in all of this, there's no maximum that we're setting, so the developer can do better.
Well, we may not require more than 1.
Yeah.
But
Right,
they
the developer
can,
may
but
choose
they
to
can
build more.
prove, yeah, they can.
That's right, they can voluntarily do something else.
What has been the net effect of this so far?
We haven't had any residential developments since December 31st, 2022.
Okay, so given with the residential development applications we've seen over the last year or two, what would the net effect of this be on? Where would we have seen changes? I try to understand, it's like, is this a big deal, or is this like?
In the 2 multifamily developments that were recently adopted over this past year, one on Sherwood Boulevard. That was the multifamily, it had 8 units, I believe.
Yeah.
So it would have had 8 parking spots only, and then,
How many does it have in the
Now-
old code?
I think there was.
I don't recall exactly what that developer did, but they met the minimum, which is higher than this, right? So our current code, our previous code, I guess, would have required more. I think really what this does is leaves it more up to the developer and to the market, which, so a minimum of 1 per unit, and it's really going to come in with multifamily, not single family. I really think it's probably going to go on a site-by-site basis with how much space do they have, how many units can they get on the property, and
So in the case of that one, where we saw 8 units.
Yeah.
Driving 20 spots, because either 20 was the minimum, or maybe the minimum was 14, and they chose to make it not.
Yeah.
But it was something more than 8 was our required minimum based on the bedroom count and
Yes.
whatnot. So in theory, if someone came in with the exact same lot, same plan today, they could choose, they'd only have to build 8 spots. Or maybe they could build 10 units of 10 spots. They'd be able to get 2 extra units, but they wouldn't need enough parking or something.
potentially, but yeah, I think it's going to come down to the site, and each site is different, but, we still have our density regulations. We'll hold on to those, hopefully, as tight as we can, and so
Those really, really strict density requirements?
Well, we'll hold on to them. I mean, that's what drove the limitations on
Okay.
that site. And so, really, I would imagine there will be some, to be completely frank, there will be some situations where reducing the number of parking stalls is going to save them space. And they're going to be able to meet other standards more easily without a variance, potentially landscaping something else.
Or they could just choose, why build 20 parking spots, but only build 8, I can save me $100,000 on
Yeah, and then what it comes down to is, are they gonna be able to lease those spots or not? And I think that's what the decision they need to make.
And when they were going through that rulemaking, the staff at the state level told us over and over again, the developers know best, which I don't believe. And they're gonna build whatever they think they can sell, build what they think is the best for the community.
Yeah, to be, a little bit of a pessimist, I know that this one's likely gonna be sold. I know it was on the market for a while, and so you have a developer who's, getting the land use approval, constructing, and then selling. And so is that developer all that, Sherwood Boulevard, is that developer all that concerned with how much parking there is there? Long-term, it's not gonna be their problem to monitor and to enforce. Does that affect their ability to sell? Maybe, and I think that's where the comments come in. Hey, the developer wants to sell his property, there's not enough parking, it's gonna be difficult. So I think there will be some cases where we get less than what we've gotten under the previous code. But I think in effect, it's gonna be more market driven.
Does parking reform B replace parking reform A, or parking reform A will still be in effect when we pass B?
It still will be in effect, and we would roll it in regards to codifying those standards. Since we're already opening up the code, we would just formalize it by including all those regulations in parking reform A. So in addition to the 1-to-1 parking ratio, we may not require parking for these different development types, small units, so smaller than 750 square feet, affordable units, childcare, daycare facilities, facilities for people with disabilities and shelters. And our code already pretty much is consistent with that, where we don't require any parking for those types of units.
So under HB 2001, which the middle housing bill, it defined a cottage cluster, I believe, the first floor was 750 square feet. 900. Okay, because
Up to 9.
Yeah, the first floor, and then they can have a
we
secondary.
might need to look at our
Lot.
code about minimums, because that could, for cottage cluster, if someone built a 750, they can eliminate all the need for parking in that little cottage
We
cluster.
might just set a minimum.
So I do know, like for ADU, we already removed the parking requirement, so we don't even require a parking spot for a brand new ADU.
So
But
we,
that's on a property that already has,
Right,
so.
right.
yeah, we're talking about new development.
Right, need to look at a minimum unit size for cottage clusters potentially.
And I guess, if we need to look at our existing code too, because why would we not require parking for someone with disabilities, shelters?
But this is what they're saying is we don't have a choice.
She said our code already matches that.
Right, and we pretty much took the requirements that were provided to us by Metro in regards to implementing the parking regulations. And those were all the recommendations we were requiring. But again, a developer that may be developing a facility for
So
individuals.
Metro's pushing no parking for affordable units because they just got in a fight with Troutdale and they have their housing bond. And they won. That was what started 3414. Under the case where CFIC goes away based on courts, I think that's something we need to look at. I mean, not for an edge community that doesn't have transportation options, not, for these small unit developments, not having parking requirements seems crazy to me.
Right, definitely the suburbs is different from the inner city.
I would think.
So again, the community development code hasn't been updated. Staff is applying these state rules directly to affected land use applications. But again, we haven't really had any of that has been active at this time. There may be one coming up. You guys are looking at the zone change tonight, right? And future development needing for multifamily. That would be like the first one that would be reviewed if and when the land use application is. So parking reform B, these are the ones that take in effect the end of this month. And again, the agencies can request an extension, and that is what staff is pursuing. We are asking for a one-year extension. I did talk to staff, in regards, to state staff. We were trying to see if we could get an extension that would coincide with the litigation. And basically that was a flat no. The extension request is probably a year out was the maximum. So parking regulation improvements include,
So has anybody been denied an extension that's asked?
not that I'm aware of. They actually even had a white paper on how to request for an alternative date extension. So as long as we can,
That's a common question.
yeah, so as long as we can meet those standards, I think they'll be favorable towards that. So again, placement of carpool, van pool, allowance for redevelopment of any portion of the parking lot for bike and transit uses, encouraging and allowing redevelopment of underutilized parking for all uses, facilitating shared parking. Any new parking lots more than a half an acre in size must install 40% tree canopy or solar panels. Adopting parking maximums such as in downtowns, regional and community centers, and transit-oriented development. And also reducing the burden of parking mandates. So this is a big one where garages and carports may not be required for residential developments. We currently don't require them, but of course, when the developers are building them, they typically have a garage. But the other one is garage parking spaces shall count towards off-street parking areas. And right now, we don't count garage as a parking space.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
we do have,
Or yes.
so we do have design standards like required setbacks.
So they can't fit a car.
Right.
Yes, we have, right. As far as-
So we're not, we're thinking, so far, we haven't been strict of our design standard.
That is correct.
So far.
So
Yeah.
give us another week and we'll get that.
So, yeah, so the interior of the garage is already set standards so that it's usable space, right? And then we also have typically driveways that can be utilized as parking. So provisions of shared parking shall be allowed to meet parking mandates. They may also require parking be provided off-site within 2,000 feet of pedestrian travel on the site. And again, reducing parking mandates if providing solar panels or wind power capacity, car sharing parking, EVs, parking spaces, units, all of these amenities that that are fully accessible by people with mobility disabilities. So those are things that we have to do.
So a couple questions. On the new parking lots, one of the quote half acre in size, 40% tree canopy or solar panels. Solar wind fee in lieu of green energy. So that means if they don't install some kind of solar energy, you have to charge a fee to park.
Or so they pay a fee in lieu.
Okay, to get
They
the
pay in
benefit,
lieu.
right, so instead of building something,
They can
because maybe
pay
it's
as
in
a,
the shade and there's no sun to shine on their solar panels. And they don't want to do the tree canopy for whatever reason, they can send right to a check.
right,
You being the city,
Be the developer.
yeah,
pays
the
fee.
developer pays the fee.
right?
Just,
And who sets that chip amount?
we would, just like, when we have improvements that are required off-site, but a certain developer isn't gonna, fully impact that particular intersection, so they would have to pay their percentage of that improvement.
And typically that improvement ends up getting built though. Like
Right,
in this
and then-
scenario, do we, like, if they pay us the fee and then we have to plant the trees or install the solar, I assume?
Or we decide in regards to where we would invest those resources.
I think
But the
The
fee,
point is, it's not a way to get out of providing the canopy or the solar panels, it's just a mechanism for how it's found when it's built.
There's just another alternative that we have to give them.
so the fee would have to be sizable enough to cover the costs of the city doing alternative project.
yes.
Right.
Fixed by DORs.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
It's $1,500 per parking spot.
Okay.
For parking spot.
Wow.
And that goes to the city, Josh?
Goes to the city or it can go to a state solar fund.
So I think that's part of the reason that, there's some stuff, we'll get to the discretionary stuff, but even the requirements and everything on this slide is required of each individual item. That's the other reason we're requesting
Question
this
probably should
section.
have this report.
What's the definition of shared parking?
So, and the other point I was going to make is a lot of this we already, some of it we already comply with. We already have preferential placement for carpool, van pool. We already allow shared parking in some circumstances. I think what staff needs to do is talk to DLCD and say, hey, here's what we have in our code already.
What is that?
Does
What is
does
shared
this count?
parking? It's just a spot.
That say you have two residential, well, in this case, be likely commercial residential. Yeah, so
Oh, and they share.
and they
Right,
share
or
parking.
You get to count the spot twice. You get
Yes.
to count it once for the residential,
Right.
once for the commercial.
Right.
But they're not, but there's no standards anymore, so what's the point, I mean, other than one unit, one parking space per unit, so at least 751 square feet.
So, I mean, at least we have things already in place in regards to agreements, access and shared parking agreements that are already in place and we're already implementing. We just need to verify, through the code audit, what exactly does that mean? Do we have to make additional changes to the code?
Exactly, and set up these programs, really, and that's kind of what, staff, it's gonna take some staff time and everything else, we gotta set up these programs, the fee in lieu, where's it gonna be spent, may need your feedback on that, where it's gonna be spent, what type of program it's gonna go to, so that's why we need an additional year. We kind of kick the can as far as we can, and now we're at the point where we need to codify and develop a program.
On the solar field to help pay for the water pumps or something like that.
All right, so here are the decisions that we need assistance on from you guys. There also, in addition to the slide before, there are a portion of parking form B where there are 3 options. Option 1 is definitely the simple approach where we repeal all parking mandates. Right. So option 2, they call it fair pricing, reducing parking mandates for certain types of development and in key areas, and adopting fair parking policies. And option 3 is reducing the regulations, further reducing parking mandates for the type of developments in more areas. So let's dig into it. You guys already know what option 1 is.
Yeah, I noticed you just skipped right over that.
Right, so option 2, they recently updated the regulations where before they indicated that at least 3 of these 5 options needed to be in place, but they've updated it, amended it, so now they're saying at least 2 of the 5 options need to be implemented, but at least one of the provisions from A, B, or C. And then we get to choose another for a total of 2. And I
Minimum of 2.
yeah, minimum of 2, but one of the requirements is one of 8 years.
Yeah.
So as you can see, we've highlighted a couple of them or bolded. One possibly requiring that parking spaces serving lease commercials development be unbundled parking.
So is there no unbundled means? So unbundled means when you rent an apartment, you are not automatically renting a parking space. So if you want a parking space, you have to pay extra to rent.
Except this is talking about commercial.
Right,
So it's the same thing. So it's if it's a commercial space, you don't automatically get any parking spaces with that commercial space you're renting. So the developer, the property owner.
The property owner has to manage it. They basically say, okay, instead of you just getting, the property manager would say, oh, you want 5 parking spots, we have to charge you for 5. Or this unit comes with 10 parking spots, we'll add that to your monthly bill.
It's not really that uncommon. I mean, it is here, but other places.
Yeah, you see a sign, hey, this parking's only for such and such a business.
They wouldn't even need to do that. They would just add it. They would just, if you were commercial development and you needed to convert to this, you'd literally just reduce your monthly rent by X amount add 10, whatever their share of, pro rata share of the parking is by that same amount, and you get everyone back to zero and you've complied.
Or you just add it.
Or you just add it, yeah. I mean,
Or the commercial just makes more.
Yeah, the unbundled term is a little deceiving because it depends on the landlord.
But the city wouldn't be involved in any of it.
No,
But I also, I think, so if we did follow B there and I didn't care, parking is plentiful for my business, do I have to buy bundled parking?
Yeah.
So when you renew your lease,
Oh,
so it's not just new parking lots or new
Yeah.
commercial development. When you renew your lease, somehow enforcement that it has to be unbundled, the parking has to.
Well, it has to be unbundled, but what I
Right.
think Taylor is asking is, if I could just say, I don't need parking spots, so I'm not gonna buy that option.
it's always that.
That's between the
Yes, you
commercial
can opt
development and the.
out.
right,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying, is that,
Involved.
Right.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
we
it's-
wouldn't care, and the business owner, if their
It's a
parking
private
situation
They
is
can do whatever they
transaction.
want.
And so I think how the city would be involved is, let's say you guys choose this option, go through the code update over the next year. We'd likely just codify this in the code, simple language, lease commercial spaces shall be unbundled. Leave it there, maybe put a condition of approval, and then exactly what you guys are saying, it's up to the property owner and to the tenants to work that out. I don't see the city being involved in enforcement all that much. And actually what some of the handouts from DLCD are saying is that they don't expect the city to be involved in enforcement of unbundled parking.
Well,
So
unless if there's a complaint.
there's a complaint, we might look into it, but, we also don't have to take action on a code compliance complaint if we get one.
Yeah.
So,
It's like-
both of what you're seeing here are sort of the best of what we bolded are sort of the least impact to the city, to the department supply.
Right.
So on D, we don't have any commercial parking lots, so that's the other issue. But assuming we did,
We would definitely have to create a tax revenue.
then we would have to administer that tax. and pay it.
Yes.
And we can always pivot if we don't want to do D in the future. I'm in support of the staff's recommendations.
I am too, I just want to make sure I understand it.
And we can always change to different sets of options if conditions change or whatever.
Commercial parking lots, meaning the city owns the commercial.
It
No,
could be a private development.
downtown Portland.
Anybody that charges parking,
Oh, just, it's specifically a paid parking.
Parking, right.
Okay, gotcha.
So those were, so let me just kind of go through option 3 so that you guys know. We have to enact all of these A through N.
That's short.
So repeal all parking within 1/2 mile of pedestrian travel areas of climate friendly areas. And right now we have a town center that includes like Langer and Old Town, so it's a very big town center. But any.
Feels like option one.
It almost is, but it's very prescriptive in regards to, and it's all. You can't even pick and choose. We have to do all of these. The only,
Anybody likes option 3?
No. No interest.
That sounds like a nightmare.
yes, and it definitely will impact in regards to amendments that staff have to make to the code significantly. And just thinking about how we're trying to have less impact in regards to code changes so that if and when, right? If we win the lawsuit, option 3 would be not a nightmare, but definitely would be indicate more for staff.
Some of this stuff makes sense in the urban center, but not in the edge community like we are.
Right.
So I'm supportive of staff's proposal. I really also like Scott's idea that if for some miracle we win the lawsuit, that it all unwinds automatically. I'm also intrigued with the idea that we sort of encapsulate our aspirations as a community for parking and share that with developers. So that then if a developer doesn't, they don't have to meet our aspirations, they can follow the law and do whatever they want, following much smaller restrictions. But then alert developers that they don't meet the city's aspirations, there is a very real potential that the city will enact parking permit zones to help ensure XYZ project doesn't impact an existing neighborhood.
There's a great example, I think it was on the south waterfront downtown Portland, they built a high-rise parking area, they talked them into eliminating all the parking lot requirements. Because they said the neighborhoods could absorb the parking, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, we've done it before in town when the old Sherwood High School kept growing and we didn't have enough parking for the kids. We did create a parking district around the old high school, so that parking permits were required, and that helped keep.
It definitely helps.
Yeah.
Don't we have a
and-
parking permit place over by, on Snyder Park? I see signs up that say parking permit required.
By Snyder?
Yeah, by the back entrance, not the two main ones where there's parking lots, but if you walk down that other street, there's signs up that say
Yes.
parking permit
Yes.
required.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we did a little one there too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't remember the name of that street.
because that was also a problem.
So, okay.
But so they're just, they're saying, you know, you can do whatever you want, but be prepared that if you build this and it doesn't meet our standards, the community might turn around and say, whatever, you know, type of development you do, you're not gonna negatively impact your neighbors.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take steps to make that, ensure that.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
so let me say that back. So basically, they say, here's our desired parking regulations. If you meet that, we will not,
And there'll be no motivation to do.
but if you don't, then we're gonna go out. and do
Possibly.
things. Yeah,
Don't be surprised if.
Yeah.
We still might not want to right away, and it's also, from my perspective, important that if a neighborhood, like
the neighborhood might not want.
any neighborhood, you know, comes and says we have a problem. You know, please, like we have had many conversations with the other 789 and Mikey intersections.
Oh, yeah,
Apartments.
Cedar.
I wouldn't be surprised if they still don't come forward at some point and want a parking district or parking permit process, something. So just to make it really clear, okay, we're following these great rules. We might do this extra layer of stuff that we really don't want to do, but if you build something, 80-unit project, you only required to do 30 units, 30 parking spaces. Great. Have fun, because there's gonna be only 30 vehicles connected to that property.
So,
Like selling or renting.
so just stepping back real quick, was everyone okay with option 2 staff recommendation?
Can we go back to that? Because I really didn't read. C.
Yes, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, we're way ahead of the clock, so.
Okay, right there, C. Okay.
Was there anything that staff saw looking at things that made sense for us to implement that we aren't at this point?
As far as these options,
Well, or even on option B, any other things that should be repealed, like, oh, actually, that would make sense for the city, or. Yeah.
Not really. You know, I think, again, being a suburban community, not good access to transit, whether it's light rail or rapid transit, bus, you know, what have you. I think for the most part, most residents do rely on a vehicle to get to and from work or even around
What's the
Sherwood.
percentage of our residents that leave for work, Tim?
Well, we have 9,000 that leave every day for work, and we average, actually found this report, we have a much higher average cars per household than the metro area because of that. I think it's also important to understand that, and I think most of you know this, that it's not just CFAC, it's HB 2001, but we're the nexus of all these regulations coming from different agencies. So when you start thinking about these rules, when you start thinking about HB 2001, which will allow someone to put a duplex or triplex on every lot, which means really wide driveways, which it means. And then there's another rule that says you can't have a residential street over 28 feet. So when you start adding all that together, there's not even places on the street to park anymore. You know, so we have to be really careful about how we think about these things.
Yeah, I think the concern would be, you know, a fairly immediate impact with new development. You know, we have vacant commercial lots, some residential left. I think for the single family, it's less of a concern, but where we have some multifamily property left or mixed use, could result in, if you get a developer who's, not interested in providing adequate parking, it could be an issue. And so I think these other ones lead to a potential issue fairly quickly with new development. And this, I think the way staff approached the recommendation is to say, all right, we're in litigation. To Councilor Scott's point, this all might just go away. We don't really want to be flipping on developers either, where it's like, hey, there's these really strict regulations we just adopted, but then we went in litigation and we repeal it. So this was sort of the two that you saw there were sort of the least impact while the litigation is being resolved.
If you also alert developers that, okay, here are the rules, here's our desires.
Yeah.
If the lawsuit, goes the city's way, then this is what's going to be changing as well. So just transparency from the development community is important, I think, so they know our thoughts.
I think until Sherwood either, gets more transit, incrementally gets more density that allows, walkability and biking. I just don't think we're there yet. It's, these changes are a pretty drastic change and we're just not, I think we might get there over time, but we're just not there right now for some major changes.
So reading between the lines, it looks like option 2 would be.
I think everyone was on board with
Right.
staff
Perfect.
recommendation.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for reading so much boring stuff to
And then-
get us the nugget.
Yes, no, I think I have
Yes, that's your job.
a handle
And
and it's changing.
and if I haven't told all of you this, and for people listening, there is a lot of conversations going on amongst the mayors and TriMet and Metro about our overall transportation system. Metro and TriMet have a bias toward everything going to Portland now. We're trying to get them to rethink about that, like how do we move people from Sherwood to the work centers in Hillsborough or Wilsonville, not to Portland out there, which takes 2 hours and 40 minutes. to do that. So, but that's the solution to that is long-term, those conversations are happening.
Excellent. So as far as next steps, so we've chosen option 2. We're gonna go with B and D. We're gonna ask for a 1-year delay, probably within the next week, so that I can get in there before the deadline. We're gonna continue tracking regulatory requirements and implementation timeframes, just because things are constantly changing. Like 2 months ago, they updated it. We're gonna be preparing future ordinances to address parking fee requirements, that includes public engagement to inform the community of the proposed regulations. And of course, we're gonna continue monitoring the litigation. And we're hoping that, it's sooner than later, right, in regards to an outcome. And hopefully it's before the year.
Parking B was that page that had 2 different sections, laundry list of items that we have no choices on.
Right, in
Okay.
addition to the options that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll just reiterate something we've done a lot in the past is as we get ready to start communicating this out to the public, much like when we have rate increases and tipping fee goes up by $10 per truck, like we need to be very clear, what is the driver behind this? Because if an angry mob shows up, I want them to know why, who they should be angry at.
Well, we need to
Or
escort,
if a happy mob shows up, we want to know who they should be happy with.
we can escort that mob to Salem.
Yeah, I think it needs to be very clear, like, the city isn't choosing these things. We are being mandated these things.
And because I think, I don't know if you've told before, but in the last 5 years when I was mayor, the single most common complaint, I didn't get lots of complaints, but the single category, the most complaints people contact me directly was about parking. Dispute with a neighbor. So-and-so, he's parking in front of my house.
Public park.
So-and-so is blocking my driveway. So-and-so has 10 cars to that house. Blah, blah, blah. So it's one of those conflict
Did
things.
you get the
They need to move away from so-and-so.
people park on the side of the street that says no parking? That's my,
Oh,
that's
there,
my neighbor.
yeah, yes, absolutely. I Yes, I give you the litany of those.
Excellent.
So I think just, if I think, we're hoping we'll get an answer on the litigation by the end of this year. I mean, we're gonna have to start doing some of this work. I think staff's gonna approach this as litigate, we have to approach it as if we're not gonna be successful. And so you're gonna see some stuff until the point where we get, all right, we just gotta move all the way forward, or you can hold it back. But I think we have done a pretty good job of, frankly, not implementing this to the last available point, which is now. We got to request the deadline or the extension and then codify. So we're hoping we'll get an answer before we really do the heavy lifting, but we don't know for sure. And if it gets appealed further, it goes from Court of Appeals up to the Oregon Supreme Court. Then who knows, so we just need to codify it. So
Because they refused to put it on hold while it goes through litigation.
the court did not issue a stay, correct?
But they're on the high,
But they are expediting the appeal. We're expecting oral arguments probably in July. And most likely a decision by the end of the year.
Wow. It's probably not the Supreme Court either way. I'm guessing.
excellent. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See back.
All right, so we have 6 o'clock, we have our CEP meeting. I think we can carry through that.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
We got a 12-minute break. So close out the session for now. I don't hear.
Are we gonna turn off live stream?
Thank you.
Can we do that? Brian?
Separate meetings.
It's hot. Turn the mic and the camera off.
Yeah.
I mean, I
We'll be
can
right
sit
back.
down. But-
Exactly.
Seems like I got
in our lunch, whether I go off campus or stay on.
Okay. All right, guys, thanks for running.
10 minutes, then.
All right, folks, we're gonna go ahead and call the Sherwood Solid Waste Community Enhancement Program Advisory Committee meeting to order, June 6th, 2023, 6. That's exactly 6 p.m. So roll call. David.
Mayor Tim Roser. Council President Mays.
Here.
Councilor Young.
Here.
Councilor Browse.
Here.
Councilor Stinky.
Here.
Councilor Scott.
Here.
Councilor Giles.
Here.
And Metro Councilor Rosenthal is not here yet. He's supposed to be here, but
We'll go ahead and get started.
yeah.
And then we have, first item is approval of January 3rd, 2023 minutes.
I make a motion for the minutes, second.
A motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Sherwood Solid Waste Community Management Program Advisory Committee. Item B, Community Enhancement Program Selection of Grants. David.
Yes, so we received, it was 9 applications. They're all listed up here. Let me just scroll over to the left. And really, it's just coming to some kind of consensus on how much we want to award or if award anything at all. There's 4 from the American Legion, 1 from the City of Sherwood. We had a Sherwood Foundation for the Arts, the Library Board, Historical Society, Sherwood Main Street, and the Knights of Columbus. And the total amount requested, if you added all those together, a little over $84,000. This doesn't reflect the carryover fund balance of roughly about $40,000. So, you know, you're talking about a pot of money of about $141,000, but part of that, some of the new committee rules, we want to set aside 20% of those dollars to carry forward for larger capital projects.
So what's that leave us?
So that leaves you, you see, 20%.
What was 20% of last year? What was 20% of last year?
So show it 20% of the total 140?
Yeah, 20% of,
So we have
Would be 101 of the new funds this year, right?
yes,
So it'd be 20% of that.
yeah, so that'd be 20,000.
And then there's the 40 from carryover, that all that is supposed to be for the set aside for a big project.
So we're growing that pot.
Okay.
So you're talking, you have a little, right about
$80,000.
just shy. Yeah.
So can you?
But that,
That's if we fund.
that rule,
Yeah.
but that rule is one we made, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a hard rule.
We're not so.
It's a suggestion.
Okay, yeah, it's a goal, yeah.
But I think we all agree it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
So there's a good idea to spend it all on.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do a very good job.
so we only received two of the
Give it
scores
or
back.
nay.
So-
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna keep doing it though, if nobody else will do it for the year.
I responded to staff, not David, but to, and I got an acknowledgement that I got, that she got it.
Oh. Okay.
So I funded everything other than Sherwood Main Street. Sherwood Main Street, I said 5250.
And I didn't say 0 on those 2. I had comments, so just so you know, I didn't say 0.
Okay.
So mine was fully funded on everything. I wanted to talk about the Sherwood Main Street since we're gonna be doing the ribbon cutting ourselves.
And mine for the Historical Society was funded fully and not used any,
No matching.
no matching fund from the Historical Society, let them keep their money in.
If you on hides or lock CEP along with ASB, that might be helpful.
All in all, I thought it was a pretty nice list of projects.
Yeah, I was,
Very pleased.
I'd forgotten about the 20%, so I was in favor of funding all of them.
I can give you mine when you get to me.
Yeah.
Oh, here's Garrett.
So while David's doing that, can we have a quick conversation about the, oh. Welcome, Councilor Roosevelt.
Thank you.
We went ahead and started, we hope you wouldn't mind.
My apologies. I had the distinct pleasure of coming all the way out on Highway 99W.
We were coming.
Remember that.
Yeah.
We called everyone and said, Garrett's coming, show them the congestion.
Point made.
I'm just teasing. So we just got, so.
We need basis for you or the mayor?
Sorry, former mayor. Okay, yeah. And so why David's copy was called, on the request from the Moorback House, I talked to K2 about this. As we all know, the city owns that building. About 3 years ago, we agreed that we would start doing all the maintenance on that building. So K2, I just talking to K2 about that. He can find the money to do that, or we can choose to use this money, but it will be a city project, and we'll have our public work folks and Craig go over there and evaluate the situation, take care of this window. So I don't even know if we, other than allocating CEP money for that project, I don't know if we have it up there. That,
If everybody agrees
everybody agrees.
that the city should take care of it and not have historical society use any of their funds. for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to
but why wouldn't we use this money versus the city money? Are you saying we should use city money instead of the CEP money?
We can do it either way. I did have a conversation with K2 about it. He says we don't want to use it, then he can find a way to do it.
I think it's fine.
I feel like it's here.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I do think going forward, we own the building, we own the maintenance of it.
I know, we.
I think we need to update our IGA is the issue, right, or our contract.
But given what we're looking at this year, I'm fine with leaving this in for this year.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a one time.
Did you want full? You said fully funded.
And I,
Yes, but I do want to talk about the Main Street.
yeah, so I wanted to fully fund it, but the whole thing down, but I have questions about the Main Street one that we can probably address. But
However, if we fully fund the more back, that amount's gonna go up. We have to take out their matching.
We could do the matching from city funds.
We could even,
We still have the,
we'd be over by 4,000. We could
Trinity
do
Light.
that from city funds.
and I would be fine funding everything too.
Copy and paste.
I just, yeah.
Garrett, what do you think? Did you have a chance to look over the applications?
I did look at them a little bit, but remind me, since I was like, how much money is available in the kitty at this point in time?
So we have 101,
101.
but we have a policy we want to follow of setting 20% aside for some bigger projects. So it'd make us at 80, it'd be the number potentially to spend.
And since we have people add the room since we started this, where my blanks are doesn't mean I said 0. It means I had comments there to discuss. You can fill in one fully fund.
and because we have people in the room, I mean, do we need a discussion of any of these, or is it just the Main Street one that?
So I think there's, I think there's, you know,
I think if,
other than Main Street.
Okay.
yeah,
Unless somebody else.
unless someone wants to talk about ones we're all united on, you probably don't have to. Inlet, you know, but I think definitely the ones where we have questions and the Sherwood Main Street ones seems like a winning conversation. Unless you're dying to talk about one.
No, other than I love the library's proposal. I thought it was excellent. I want that in the record. No.
Yes.
Might I ask, I noticed on the reimagine Sherwood Main Street, 2 votes for about 1/3 of the amount. Specific reasons for that?
So they asked for three elements of their proposal. One, they want to throw a party. Second, they want to, rebrand, try to refocus what they're doing. And the third is to, some basic, little bit of money to do a wine walk thing. So from my perspective, I want to focus on investments. And usually it's capital goods or getting a product accomplished, starting the foundation, rebranding, and paying for all the party. I still think that would appropriate.
I think it would be helpful. I have, is Jake here?
I'm here, yes.
Jake, can you describe a little bit what the intent of that party is and what, how you guys envision that?
The intent of the party was to showcase what the plaza is able to do and to utilize some of those features that you guys don't want. I second would be to under Main Street and their 4 pillars of promotions. And so bringing people into the old town district court. Number 2, number 3 reason would be to restart to make sure the viable again organization. That's like the main purpose behind each of those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I think my amount under the Sherwood Main Street is wrong. It wasn't 18,000, was it?
That's the full amount.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But especially, so help me understand, I mean, I'm sure that the pandemic, and other things probably have ground it to a halt. So.
Not to be critical, Main Street hasn't been much of an organization for a while.
Let's be a little fair. So for many years, Main Street was basically just doing event coordination and they do the Halloween thing, but they really weren't running as a true Main Street organization. In the last, going back to January or so,
6 months.
that board's completely turned over. They are moving, they're trying to move in.
They want to restart.
They're doing a restart and then they're building it as a real Main Street organization.
Okay.
So.
And with that, it could potentially come some money to our downtown core if we have a truly functioning Main Street.
Yeah, I think there's so much potential in Old Town. It's one of the things that I think makes Sherwood unique in terms of the vibe. And so I'm all for, I understand kind of some of the concerns, but frankly, sometimes having, and my kids hate when I use this term, but I call food and beverages social lubricant. And I said, sometimes having that and getting people excited about it is kind of what we need in order to set the vision. And so that's why I'm for the whole thing, but because there's so much potential there and it feels like, again, yeah, having some spotlight on some of the businesses, the plans, the vision, all of that stuff is important to kicking that out.
And I think the policy we agreed to was for capital investments. Bootstrapping, we're talking about for when we're trying to get organizations off the ground. What we don't want to happen is, remember, the conversation is we're just funding operations every year.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's just it though, is this would be a kickoff / bootstrap your and get people excited about it, in much the same way the library foundation, right? Where we're saying, hey, there's startup costs and legal fees and everything, filing fees and stuff like that we've got to take care of. And so let's take care of it, get that thing functioning if we believe in the leadership and everything else of that organization.
Doug, what do you think?
I like the 2, right? The party one, I want to know, maybe I want to know more about it or more specific. I mean, it's a lot of money. So we also have multiple events over the next couple months that showcase the new plaza. So that's something the city really needs. If it's something for Main Street specifically, then let's talk about the benefits to that. I don't think we need another, let's open the plaza party, because we have 2 in the next 40 days.
Well, I like the one term that they used in their application was, nope, it was the taste of Old Town or the taste of Main Street, basically.
And so is that what it is? Is there gonna be Sherwood Old Town restaurants?
That's what's my understanding, so we're trying to get Sherwood Old Town
We have
restaurant
2
there.
already agreed to, as for the CEPA that's been filed, and working on more collaboration to reach it.
Is there a possibility that Bruce can use this as a way for other, you know, again, to attract other potential businesses and people to say, hey, this guy, this is the place.
What it's for, is to bring and showcase.
Yeah.
and build support. So, sure, Main Street, America, Oregon Main Street is about livability, community, and business growth. So
Yeah.
Bruce can serve in the board members, and it would definitely be a showcase for that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not saying in favor or against the party, that's something that the council has to discuss, but the reality is, I take a lot of developers around here and they tell me, or businesses, they tell me, really, this is a cute, the term is
Yeah.
cute downtown. I haven't been here in so many years, it's not on the beaten track
Yeah.
like some downtowns
Right.
are. And it's, I do think it's important, whatever the council decides on this, to see how we can get an active, newer, I guess, revitalized Main Street program going. How to do that, it's not for me to say, but I think that's really important to get stronger recognition, have it organized by the businesses in the community, not by, certainly by me and city government. It has to come from the businesses for this to be successful.
Yeah.
I think to me, and this is really helpful context, because maybe I just wasn't picking up on it right when I read the application. To me, the focus is promoting businesses in Old Town and promoting the Main Street organization, then I'm fairly supportive of that. If the focus is, here's a new plaza, then that, like, we have that already. So that's where maybe the messaging just didn't hit me the right way.
If it's an idea of taste of Sherwood, taste of Old Town, then you're getting some traction.
Yeah.
With me. I don't want to throw some scratch to help launch. I'm not still supportive of picking up the whole tab. And if to stay by our goals, you know, either top off at 80, then that would be an additional 8,500.
I was looking for this earlier. I didn't see
Is there gonna be
anything about this budget, how that money, now that 15.
Yeah, you can go to your council mail, it's
in there, okay.
I asked him that when I talked to him today.
Okay, I haven't looked at that today.
Just to throw another viewpoint in there, if you look at the packet that we were given, just in particular, I think it's page, second page of the grant that Jake wrote. It gives you the 4 pillars. And as part of Main Street, it is to be connected to the city that you're trying to work with.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there is potential to use the plaza for cruise in and for Robin Hood Festival, but this is a totally different type of an event that it would be showcasing the design of. So just to kind of wrap it up a little.
So we're going to talk about Brad from broadband being there for your code, correct? And so having other community organizations and entities be present was what it was for. That was our main purpose, was to be a collaboration, and there's not a Sherwood industry event.
So I want to, yeah, hopefully, if we put more money in my zero, that it is, yeah, a lot, you know, it's at least a half dozen type of groups from Old Town that are involved.
One thing I want to give Jake a lot of credit for, if you look at that, the new board. In the past, without naming names or anything, we had a very divided downtown. And that board represents some of those divisions in the bridge, which is real not. So
Really wasn't
But I think they've done a lot to bring those businesses together.
I think, so Mallory, I'm the contracted event planner, also a new Sherwood business. We actually run my business for social, participated in the Chamber's Hoffman Fast Track program last year, and we've since kind of gone wildly successful beyond our capacity. So my job as a marketer, I just wanted to kind of reconceptualize and reframe this event. While we are calling it Party on the Plaza as the forward-facing, public-facing name, it's not, I would say it's not a party. Party is probably the wrong term to use in this context. Oh, can I just finish? Thank you. So I think the right way to really look at this is another community. Because I've lived in Sherwood for a long time. One of the really neat things about our community is that we have all these opportunities to come together as a community and to celebrate the collaborative work that we do. And this event and the work like you just mentioned that they've done to bring these people that have like long been divided together, that's the intent of this event. This event is to show like what Sherwood is capable of now and in the future when we work together. And so I just wanted to, so party, like, yeah, we can call it a party because we all like party, like that's, we know Sherwood does. But I think for this conversation, I think party is probably the wrong term. I think this is a community gathering event.
And right now, we have 7 Old Town organizations connected to this event already.
Awesome.
So
I just want to kind of make sure that decisions.
Yeah, I am full support of revitalizing Main Street downtown area, and so hearing better description of what was not in the packet. I was already supportive with what I read in the packet. To hear even more, like I'm even more on board with supporting the funding for this because I think that is crucial to the city and it is very unique to the state. For all our things.
I just have a question on what you sent via email. So is your budget is a little less now than what was in, so you could do it for less?
Yeah.
So on here, on the budget you sent via email, it's 9,600, but is the DJ porta potties on twice?
Yeah, I saw that too. That was my
Oh,
question.
Sorry.
So it's something you go. Is what we have available.
I added
And let the math, what does it add to?
I think that there was a weird thing with my Google.
Yeah, the total, if you don't include the duplicates, the totals come down to be 10,000.
DJ porta potties.
Okay.
With DJ, yeah, I'll see it.
Yeah.
It shows up on the second page.
Unless
There must be
the,
something, the document that I sent Jake is.
One page, I'm not sure.
That's weird. It must have been the way it showed up in the mail.
My apologies.
But the total's right, it's 10,100. So it's about 3,000 less.
So 10,600.
Okay, so about 25.
And then in-kind matching, so 9,600 is what they work with.
And through applying for Tiger CEP, if you look in the packet as well, it is asking for a city support. I'm not sure what that dollar figure is, but it's a, so
there's always city support for any event.
She said 9,600 and we were, the original one was 12,925. That's a difference of 3,325, which would take us pretty close to 80,000 if we,
Which makes 81,000.
yeah.
some things that.
And we have 101 now.
How would you issue?
Some things that we
Well,
got that the contractor was
okay.
unsure of
Sorry,
what they wanted
it's-
to do was
it's-
lighting.
The total is
So,
18,175 minus
Kristen tried to figure out how to do that.
Why
So
not?
give it to the lady now.
take the 18,175
Okay.
minus 3325. That's what, that would be the new total if we aligned on that. What's that number? That's what we're trying to get.
9,600 plus their 5,000 for rebranding plus 2.
Yeah, right. It
14,850.
should be 14,850.
14,800.
14,850. Does that sound right? 14,850?
14 total, I
9,600, 5,000 rebranding, and then 250 wine and blocks.
I'm gonna leave it to the marketing guys.
So that puts us at 81.
Go, gals and guys, guys and gals, yes. In fact, I think that it is super important as they're starting to, and we've got energy around that to support it. The one thing I do hear when I visit businesses is they say, I wish the city was easier to work with, or be a better partner, or all the other stuff, and I want to start
I'm gonna tell you, I've heard that for 15 years.
Well, let's do something about it.
Well, no, but I think a lot of that is old notion, businesses who tried to work with the city 10, 12 years ago and had that experience, and maybe they're still here. But I think that has been changed dramatically.
Oh, okay.
When they say that, I wanna know why.
I don't do that.
For me, it's the same people.
That's why.
Okay, I'll tell you the specific examples, but by the way,
I can already know one that you're already.
no, but here's the thing.
I,
Here's my experience though, is that when I do reach out to the city, they always are easy to work with, and they always do make things happen, right? And so that's why I do think this is a marketing issue and not a reality issue.
I also
Right.
think it's an outdated issue.
Okay, but that's fine.
I moved my business to the city 5 years ago. Everyone I worked with on staff was incredibly easy to work with
I think
and
it's both
super
branch
helpful.
issues.
Okay, well, that's fine. So here's the thing though, is that even if that is the case, it's still a marketing problem and not an actuality problem. So, I want to support the new board and the excitement and everything else today.
Well, I think, just moving forward, maybe the first step is if we get complaints like that, let's let K2 know and then we can go.
Oh, I do.
with them individually.
No.
Right. So just back to this, because it sounds like were there any questions on any of the other grants?
Just, the Historical Society, so we're gonna fund it and then find the matching funds elsewhere.
Yes.
You can find the 3,000 elsewhere. Okay,
You say,
I know.
Hey,
but to be clear on that, it'll be a city project. We're just gonna use.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
So we'll fund the 21,433 out of CEP, and anything additional needed will be, the city will find.
Yep.
I'm sure K2 will find.
All right. Anything else, Dan? Good? Taylor?
I'm good.
So I think, are we all riding around what's in the Rosner column now?
Yeah.
89,94.
Yes,
Okay.
As long as that covers the request.
Yeah, does
it
that,
does. They're 9,600, they're 5,000 rebranding, and they're 250 for a one lot.
I'm gonna go, they're gonna rebrand it.
Oh, did you have a question?
Well, when you talk about the Historical Society and the windows, you're saying it's a city project. So is the city going to do it, or is it going to go through?
The city will do it.
The city will manage it and take it off your guys' shoulders.
Okay, so then the contractors I found and all of that is like,
We'll
Talk to Keith.
Yeah, talk to Keith and get them hooked up with Public Works.
We probably don't
We
need
might-
to rebid it or anything like that.
Right, yeah, we can take advantage of all that work. For sure. But we-
okay, but you will manage it, so I don't have to.
Right.
And not use any of your guys' money.
No matches. Just with that.
Great.
But thanks for all your work. Get all the bids.
made it easy.
How much is the match for that? 3?
It's like,
3,000.
I think it was 2,500 or 3,000, yeah.
All right, so it sounds like we have consensus. Garrett, did you have any?
Do you want to weigh in on? No, the only, it's not my job to say, these are going to beautify Sherwood or not. I mean, that's not, my job is to say, did I see anything that was really weird or not appropriate? And to be very honest, I saw one thing that I think that I had questions about, and that was the front yard sign replacement. But that's such a small amount. I mean, is that really an enhancement for the city, or is it is it an enhancement for the American Legion?
Oh.
It's right on the
Yeah.
Right here.
And, since I don't know these signs or these specific facilities personally, in many cases, I go, yeah, well,
It's like a walk away, we can walk.
Yeah.
Field trip.
it better be a pretty sign though.
The new one.
So.
Okay, so that was my only real comment. Otherwise, if you guys think it's going to enhance the city and it doesn't violate the contracts, in other words, that you're relatively certain that you're relatively certain that there's no easy money available for these projects. Otherwise, those are the main things. I mean, these are, it's not, Les Schwab buying a tire or something.
All right, so it sounds like we have alignment, so we just need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the CEP grant applications, as presented, column
Total
M, a total amount of $80,994.60.
All right, discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Sherwood Solid Waste. Good job, guys, for your advisory.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Is there any money from the last go around? Are there any projects that aren't happening or haven't been spent?
So so last time around, we set a rule that we're gonna set aside 20% each.
Yes.
For a bigger project, so we do have some money. How big's the pot now?
It's
About
gonna
60 now.
Yeah, it'd be about 60,000 now.
But I think he was asking about money, projects we funded, did they all get completed and spent?
Completed or at least in process?
They're all in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other business?
Yeah, let's just get the fall.
All right.
Yeah, they have some reports to
Close out this meeting and we'll read.
Or the after.
Hey, how about this?
Just.